Hi, it's BethWe in the Koinonia Kitchen, and we're going to talk about some random thoughts that I'm having on recovery from addiction. Why? Well, because I have these random thoughts every once in a while, and I like to think about them. I like to talk about them with friends, and I like to see what I really think about them as I talk. The first thing I'm going to talk about is, why do we feel suspicious? Have you ever had that where you feel suspicious? Sometimes it's our brain alerting us that there's going to be a problem somewhere. There's a possible problem, or maybe somebody isn't right. But sometimes suspicion can be a problem from my diseased mind. How do I mean that? I think that there are some things that will take me away from the crowd that are seeming real, but they're not real. There's some other ones: suspicion, paranoia, a lack of trust, false expectations of people, like thinking that people are going to do stuff that we've never talked about that. We're not even that close of friends, but I just assume that if they're in that place, they're supposed to be doing something else for me. These are things, and I can get angry over something they don't even know what I'm talking about. I've been watching it recently with some friends, and I can see that sometimes suspicion, the false expectations, it's bringing me back to a place of being alone. It's bringing me back to a place of isolation. You know, the first isolation I knew wasn't on purpose. I was awkward. I was an awkward teenager, not sure how to fit in with other people. I was great with my family, but when I got outside the family unit, which I'm supposed to do, which is just a trait of Homo sapiens. We are meant to step out of our familial group and into society at about the age of 13 and 14. We're supposed to grow into the bigger community. But when you're awkward, it can be really easy to fall into addiction, to use a drink or a drug or a behavior. It could be putting on a false persona, pretending. But whatever it is, it's taking you into yourself more and more. I think that self-centeredness is the bottom line. But I don't think we start out that way. I think we get that way. Now, I have to be honest. I've been watching my grandson, who is now 7. But when he doesn't have a lot of words. He doesn't have full language yet. But some of his first words were mine and me, mine. So that self-centeredness starts building in us pretty young, I would say. So by the time you're 13 and 14, you've got your sense of self-centeredness, but you're supposed to be going out into the world. And if you're awkward, you start to use substances or behaviors to make it easier, to grease the chute, so to speak, so that you can get out there. And then it changes who you are. It changes what your priorities are. It changes how you relate to people. And in the end, the thing that you hoped it would do for you, which was to bring you into connection, it brings you into disconnection. You become suspicious, lonely, paranoid. You have false expectations for other people. And the awkwardness is back, but it doesn't feel like awkwardness. It's not like a pair of shoes that don't fit right that are tripping you while you're walking. This kind of awkwardness is, I want to be alone. I think it was Greta Garbo, the great early film actress. I want to be alone. That was her big thing that everybody quoted. And that is just a sign that she wasn't in a good place mentally, that maybe she needed some counseling or some help, because we were created. We were created for connection. So that's one of the things I was thinking about. How to watch for the isolation to sneak back in, because we have to fight isolation if we're fighting an addiction. Okay, the next thing I was thinking about is there a connection between survival and denial? What do you guys think? I think there might be. I think that at some point when we move into the state of denial, it's to help us survive something. I think of grief right away. Denial is, dabda, they say. Denial, angry, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. So I use the word dabda to remember those so I can get them in order. But the first one is denial. Why is denial first in grief? Possibly because to survive the loss, you have to deny it first. But what about later in our lives when we still use denial? And I've been thinking, some people come to see things about themselves early in their walk in recovery, where other people won't see those things for 20 years or more. Why is that? I think it's a gift from creation. I think God is giving us a gift so that we can survive until we're ready to confront that demon, whatever that is, that memory, that character defect, whatever it is we've been denying. I think that denial is sometimes a gracious gift from creation to help us survive. You think I'm letting myself off the hook somehow? I hope not. I hope I'm on board with that. So that's something. Now, I heard a person say, I'm switching now. I'm going to another random thought. I loved this person said, they didn't quite say it like this, but I kind of fixed their grammar and rewrote it. And this is what I have. Anything I put a leash on, I better be prepared to clean up after. Isn't that funny? So you think about your dog when you're walking down the street, but what do you put a leash on? I talked earlier about my grandson and the me, mine, those things that I want to be just mine and nobody else's. And some of those things are character traits. They're things about me I want. This is mine. I'm important here. I'm significant here. And you know what? That kind of extreme ego running to the extreme is going to get dirty. It always does. It's going to get dirty. And I better be prepared to clean up after anything I claim as me, mine, nobody else. Thoughts? I hope you like it. Okay. I think that self-pity is becoming more and more of an issue in the world. People really feel sorry for themselves, and I think that it has to be eradicated. And the only way I know to eradicate self-pity is by responsible thought and action. I think one of the greatest gifts of my whole recovery walk is that I learned to ask, what is my part? What is my part? So you did something heinous, you did something stupid, you did something embarrassing, you did something that embarrassed me. What is my part? Instead of jumping into the self-pity vat that leads to, you got it leads to just terrible, terrible bitterness. If self-pity isn't eradicated, it will become bitterness. And bitterness is an herb that most people want to stay away from. So to eradicate self-pity, I have to constantly look for my part in the situation. I think that's why the 10th step, the principle behind the 10th step is perseverance. I have to always be on guard and ask, what is my part? Okay, the next thought that I want you to think about with me, I have the unlimited ability to improve. Isn't that awesome? I can improve every day if I so choose. I can become better one moment at a time. One day at a time, one step at a time. But I have an unlimited potential to improve. And you do too. I just have to claim it. I just have to want it. I just have to remember it. Mostly, I just have to believe it. I have to believe it. Okay, that's a random thought. I know. I'm moving on to yet another one. This one's pretty important to me. The quality of life can be determined by how quickly I turn to God when I'm in emotional distress. You know, I want my life to be good, but I have things going on all around me that are not good. I have people that I love that are making bad choices, or what I perceive to be bad choices because they're choices I made in my past. and they didn't turn out so well. So my experience tells me that's a bad choice. Are you sure that's what you're going to choose? But I don't say it. I let people be their own people. And if they ask me for anything, I'm happy to share. But I'm not a should head anymore. I used to be a real should head. And I got to tell you this, if you ever come to me with something, I'll be quick to jump into resolution. I'll be thinking you want to solve something. So if you don't want to solve something and you come to me, you have to say, I'm just venting. Please don't give me any solutions. Because I don't mean to be a should head anymore, but I am a manager, and I do tend to want to resolve issues that are easily resolved in my mind. But the quality of my life can be determined by how quickly I turn to God when I'm in emotional distress. You know, if I go to the kitchen cabinets, or if I go to a bottle, or if I go to a drug, or if I go to a faulty relationship, or if I go to spend too much money, if I go to whatever it is, if I go to it instead of going to God, the quality of my life will suffer. It's just that simple. Got emotional distress? Don't go to the dollar store. Go to God. Get on your knees. Enough said on that one. You know, we always hear the thing, give a man a fish, teach him for a day, teach a man to fish, give him food for a life, or whatever. Okay. So, but I have a different thought on that. It's just a random thought. But when you give someone bread today, they forget how hungry they were yesterday. And I think that's a good thing. So if you don't have time to teach the man to fish, give him the fish. I mean, do what you can do. If you could teach everybody how to fish, you'd be out there having a fishing school, and that's be what you do for a living. But sometimes all you can do is stop by the guy with the sign. And as you give him some money that he's probably going to use for drugs or alcohol or whatever, just say, I'm in recovery, and it works. Get to a 12-step meeting. It really worked for me. I hope it gets better for you, bud. And then as you drive away, pray for them. Okay, so I gave the guy a fish. But for that 1 minute, the guy had a fish. I don't have time to stop and take him to a rehab and talk him into going and blah, blah, blah. My life is busy and I can't do that. But to just ignore him is to keep the fish to myself. I don't know if that makes any sense, but when you give someone bread today, they forget about how hungry they were yesterday. I think that matters too. And then the last thing I've been working on a project. We have a challenging old beliefs retreat coming up, and I've been working on some of my notes. And one of the things I keep hearing when I'm thinking of the people that I've asked questions to, I had one person say this to me. My parents said, don't ever come back until you can admit that you need help. And that person was really struggling with that they said that to them. Because what they heard is, don't ever come back. They didn't hear the last part. And that's the last part's the part the parent wanted them to hear. But they couldn't hear it because they didn't want to stop the way they were living. So all they heard was, my parents are out. And that alienated them from their family. That alienated them from the ones who wanted to help them. That increased their hopelessness because their helplessness was increased. So if anybody is listening to this and you feel like you're alienated from a person you loved, and it's because of something they said, could you try and play it back and see if you can remember the whole thing they said and not just the part that your addiction allowed you to hear? Especially if you're in recovery now, especially if an amend could be made and you could right that relationship. Wouldn't that be a powerful and wonderful and incredible miracle? Okay, guys, these were random thoughts. Now you know how it goes on in my head. It's a little bit scary, I know, but I bet there's a bunch of you out there that say, oh, no, I think just like that. Have a great day. I hope you're feeling better because you had a listen. Good Seed Podcast is powered by the BethWe nonprofit ministry based in Vero Beach, Florida. Our goal is to start the uncomfortable conversations that turn complacency into action and despair into hope. Connect, communicate, and thrive with us. Check us out online at BethWe.com.